and here we go.
There's the deluge. Here's ignition.
Doubling up.
Did it just do a Kerbal?
Back to the moon and beyond.
Put that in the big bag, you know.
Back at home, we all have a lot of work to do, but from here, it sure looks like a perfect flow.
Propulsion continues to be normal.
We did have an observation.
Equalization.
343 unfolds to go.
It's orange.
Water towers can fly!
Bingo! Right in the center.
Where's Jacqueline? There it is!
That was surreal.
That's not what we want to see.
No!
Oh my God.
Yikes. You bet. We don't need any more of these.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Astronomy Night. How are you guys feeling tonight? Pretty good. We have an amazing crowd out here tonight. Thank you all so much for joining us. This is a very special astronomy night because it is tagged on right after a very special event we held today on site called New York Space Forum in collaboration with Empire Space. So bravo to them for throwing an amazing event earlier. Many of you out there I recognize from seeing you earlier today as well. So thank you for sticking around. What a long day, right? But I promise it'll be worth it. My name's Alicia. I'm the producer of public programs here at the Intrepid Museum. So once again, thank you all for joining us. Thank you all at home, if you are tuning in to our live stream as well, for joining us. And also thank you to our amazing American Sign Language interpreters who are also going to be interpreting our presentation here today as well. You can thank them by going like this. There you go. Round of applause for them. Thank you all. All right, so we are thrilled to have you here for Astronomy Night. Of course, earlier we had our Space Forum. Now we transitioned into our after hours event here. You might have seen earlier, we've got our exhibit back there with the School of Visual Arts and NASA. They collaborated to make a poster exhibition on Artemis 2, which I'm sure you guys have heard of Artemis 2, right? Yeah. It's been kind of all over the news lately. An amazing mission, but really inspiring artwork back there, so be sure to check that out. We've also got our educators out there doing some talks about different career pathways in space, also different spacecraft you can learn about. And later on, we've also got some stargazing out on the flight deck too. So be sure to check out the Amateur Astronomers Association out there with their telescopes as well. So everyone, I'm so excited that you're here because we are now going to be doing our special live broadcast of Intrepid's Astro Live. So if you're not familiar, this is a free online show that we talk to scientists and engineers who are doing amazing things in space. And this month, we are thrilled to be highlighting some people who are based right here in New York doing amazing things in space. And that might surprise some of you to hear that, right? New York actually has a pretty unique connection in many ways to the space industry. First of all, you might know this, the aircraft carrier that you're on right now, the former USS Intrepid, picked up 2 of NASA's earliest missions after they splashed down into the water. So we have that connection. Some Mercury and Gemini astronauts were actually walking around on these decks here. Also, when NASA needed to build a moon lander, the first few times anyway, they reached out to Grumman out in Bethpage, New York. Also, the space shuttle right above your head, for example, the Enterprise, also has some really interesting New York connections. The windows up there in the front, so actually made in Corning, New York by the Corning Glass Company. And the tail was made in Farmingdale by the Fairchild Republic Corporation. And also the wings were also made by Grumman in Bethpage. So there's New York space history all around you. So let anyone convince you that New York doesn't have a strong space presence. Most people think about space, they think of astronauts, they think of rockets, right? They think of maybe Texas or Florida. But again, New York really does have an impact as well. And because we're playing such a large role in it here, there are other industry pathways that you can learn about, which we're going to be talking about tonight. So you might not think about things like law or medicine or cybersecurity or defense or systems engineering. The list goes on. But those things are important too. And there's a variety of different ways that you all could get involved right here in New York. So we've got an incredible panel here for you tonight. I'm going to stop droning on. Each person is representing something very different parts of the space ecosystem. Again, all based here in New York. And the goal here tonight is really just to show you how none of these fields exist in isolation, right? They all are a very complex, interconnected ecosystem, this web of industries, some of which you might not have even really thought about before. So rather than reading off amazing bios that all of these people behind me have, I'd love to jump right in and have each of you just kind of go down the line, introduce yourselves, talk about the field that you're in, and how that work kind of fits into the broader space ecosystem. So Neha, let's start with you.
It's on. Yeah. Good evening, everyone. My name is Neha Dagley. I am very excited to be here. I am amazed by the audience. My background is space law. I am what is called a space lawyer, and we can get into what that means as we get into the panel. But it is a very important component of everything that we do in space. We need to have rules and regulations in how we work with each other to make space work for all of us. And that is what I will be talking about today. I'm very happy to be here.
Hello. I think this is on, right? Okay. Had to do a sound check. My name is Ambericent Cornett. I go by Amber. I've had several roles in the space industry. Of course, I started out with 4 years in the military on active duty service. I deployed to Iraq during Operation Iraqi Freedom. When I got off of active duty and returned to my hometown of Houston, Texas, I started a transitional period between that and my NASA Johnson Space Center position. I started off as a program manager for systems engineering, and I worked on things that you see in this building right now: shuttle, the Hubble telescope, your CPAS project, which is a parachute assembly system that lets the pod literally hit the Earth a little bit slower than it would have. Things like the Hubble telescope, the rover missions, all those things. And then I transitioned over to an epidemiologist, which is basically a scientist for communicable diseases and communicable variances. We looked at specifically the programs for ISS, Mir, Orion, and all of the shuttle programs and things like that, but we worked directly with the crew members. So I was working with space medicine for a while. I spent about roughly 10 years at NASA, but then I pivoted a little bit because we had Ebola and Zika here in New York. So I transitioned to an infectious disease epidemiologist for the CDC. But all these things that I've tried, kind of transferred into has pivoted me back to space. And it's always been my first love. So that is why I'm going to be talking on this panel today. I actually have a new found love, which is my my organization that I've started. It's called Chameleon. It's basically a little bit of a barrage of everything that I've done in my past and all of my history. So I'm going to talk to you all about that as well.
Right. Hey. All right. There we go. My name is Khaki Rodway. I have been in the space industry for about 20-some plus years. I live in New York, New York City, most of the time though, upstate New York. Before I even get started and tell you a little bit more, can I get a big space from everybody? Let's go. Space! Space! There we go. All right. We're set. Let's get this started. I'm not an engineer. I'm technically minded, but I call myself a rocket poet. So I started in this industry because I could write. Writing is essential. Translating engineer speak to customers is essential. So there's a business side of space. And that's what I do. That's what I look at. So right now, I co-founded a company. I'm CEO of that company. We can get into it. It's a little complicated, but we are building essentially we're building a brain that lets spacecraft like satellites and drones and other vehicles connect with the systems that go into that vehicle. Helps make decisions, all without human intervention. So picture things that are in environments like the moon or Mars or, way out there, or even places where it's hard to get people. What we're doing is ensuring that there are vehicles there, that the systems can talk to each other and the vehicles don't crash. But we can go into greater detail later, and I hope to get into more.
Can you hear me? Oh, good. All right. So hello, everybody. I'm Corey Trustee. That's kind of loud. So I'm a colonel in the U.S. Space Force. I spent my first 15 years in the U.S. Air Force, always doing space. And then once the government said that we're going to have a whole new service as far as Space Force, I got the chance to go over to this new service. We are not the Netflix series, so I'm going to tell you guys that now. Sometimes I feel like it's close, but we're not. But I've got the chance to do a lot of really cool things in the services, and I've done everything from stationed in remote places to being deployed in places where I probably don't ever want to go to again. I've also had the chance to launch this thing up here above your head, which is an amazing feat. And I've been all around the world. I've been in the military for 22 years, and I've moved 14 times to so many places around to get a chance to meet so many great people and do so many great missions. And I look forward to talking to you all about space today.
Amazing. So first of all, I want to thank you all for being here, because I know you just had a very long day at the Space Forum. So one more round of applause for them being here and talking to us, right? We really appreciate it. So let's start by connecting all of these dots, right? You all work in very different parts of the space world. Law, defense. You, Amber, you have a variety of different backgrounds as well.
I was just extra.
Nothing wrong with that. Khaki as well, and you also, your business, you're also kind of like systems designing as well with your business too. So a variety of different things here. So let's build a mission together, okay? Let's say a satellite is about to launch tomorrow. What breaks if we remove any of your particular fields from that process? So let's start with you, all right? Let's use our imaginations here. Why are each of these industries important is basically what I'm getting to. How does they all work together?
I'll say one word: chaos. We all know that we have to live and abide by rules and laws to get along, right, on Earth. And if any of those systems break, we're going to be in a lot of trouble. And that's probably the simplest way to put it, right? If we take away the regulations, right? So when you launch something into space, you have a variety of agencies in the United States, if you're launching from the United States, giving you a license, examining what you're doing as a company, looking at the satellite, making sure it's safe. There are a number of requirements you have to follow. There's a launch license, there's a re-entry license. We need these rules in place so that we can have a safe and sustainable space. And what do I mean by sustainable, right? There are thousands of satellites in orbit right now. If we take away all the lawyers and all the rules and all the rule makers, and everybody just does whatever they want and launches things up there, it is going to be, like I said, absolute chaos. The world needs space lawyers, regulators, and policymakers.
Well, I'll take a little bit of a different approach. Of course, I mentioned that I was a scientist by, faculty and trade. But right now, my company is actually really, really into cybersecurity and cybersecurity infrastructure. So if you take away the cybersecurity element from the satellite launch, chaos. I think I need to take that word on from her, right? So the chaotic approach through taking away this cybersecurity infrastructure is that we no longer have the ability to, A, control that satellite and its trajectory and its orbit and its return if we decide it's going to come back to Earth. But we also have an ability to, we also lack the ability to harness that actual probe and not let it release itself into another person's hands. So for example, I don't want to put out a nation state and say who might be, against the United States and things like that, but if we launch something into space and someone else adversarial gets a hold of it, now it can produce this chaotic form. Well, if it bumps another satellite in that constellation, now we have a problem. Now we have space debris hurling itself to the Earth and this atmosphere, right? Now we have an endangerment, it's a problem. But if we can actually keep that cybersecurity structure intact, we not only maintain the systems that are engulfed in it from being attacked by some adversarial mindset, but we also remain safe and secure in that whole orbital cycle from space to coming back or space to burn up, whatever the case may be. Cybersecurity is a very, very needed structure when it comes to securing your fortress around that element that goes out into space and making sure that it doesn't end up in the wrong hands.
Well, the system we're designing is made so that nothing breaks. so that things work. But the scenario, if things do break, this is why integration is so important, because you have a satellite, and that satellite has, I don't know how, a dozen, maybe, more different kinds of systems. It's got propulsion, it's got the avionics, it's got the GNC, the communication, the GPS. It has all of these different systems, and some of these systems, a lot of these systems, come from different companies. So you have to have a very skilled integration engineer, integration team to put all of these things together. And sometimes things go wrong. Like even today I was hearing somebody left out a screw on one of the parts. And guess what? Spacecraft gets up into space and it doesn't work. So from a business side of things, that's a capital expenditure that a company cannot afford, because first of all, you've spent time and money to build that satellite, to develop it, to build it, to test it, and to get it up into space. And now that doesn't work, but it doesn't stop there, because typically what that satellite does, that satellite has a purpose, whether it's to collect Earth observation data or for communications, but that still means you have a customer or customers on the ground who are expecting that data. If your satellite doesn't work, then your whole business model is ended. So you have to start from scratch.
Yeah, so I'll say this. All right, launching a satellite is like actually kind of taking the train here in New York, right? So who takes the train? Like everybody probably takes the train, right? And so without, like, let's just say the military, the government part of it, that train is supposed to go from point A to point B. Say you take away the train tracks. Say you take away the train conductor, right? That train isn't going to go anywhere. And that's how it kind of is without having some of the folks in the military who help like launch rockets to put them in space. You keep taking away all these little parts, and the only thing you have is just this one thing kind of sitting there. And so that's one thing I kind of compare it to that's probably here in the city, that, if you don't have, some of these skilled folks, really trying to make a mission work, it's kind of like trying to take the train and not having the conductor there or not having the tracks to get you there.
And so what I'm hearing really is there is a lot of interconnectivity here, right? So Khaki, with the business perspective, you probably invest in cybersecurity to keep your business safe, right? And at the same time, there's a lot of legal oversight and regulation in order to make sure that things aren't bumping into each other and, all of that you were saying about that. So there's a lot of interconnectivity here, clearly. So I'm also curious, is there anywhere that your fields clash when building or operating space systems? I see lots of nods and smiles. All right, I've touched on something. All right, anyone want to jump in?
Sorry, it's the lawyers. No.
Always the lawyers.
Yeah, it's always the lawyers. It's kind of funny whenever people, we're trying to do something, we're like, hey, we got to kick the lawyers out of the room because they're going to keep us on track. But no, I mean, sometimes the fields kind of clash, especially when you talk about the government doing something versus like a commercial company doing something. Like, for instance, the IRS, You know, they don't always move as fast as you go to like a check cashing place or something. You know, they're going to move fast to get you your money for a fee. The IRS may kind of hold on to it for a little bit longer. And so sometimes we see a little bit of clash and a little bit of friction between like government and between commercial, because they want to go fast and the government may not want to go so fast. And so that's times we see a lot of friction there.
I feel like also.
Can I jump in for 1 second? I have to respond. I would take a small objection to Corey's comment. I see lawyers as more of connectors and enablers in the new space economy that is now surging, right? So Corey's point is definitely correct. So in the past couple of decades, government has been slowing things down. It's been slowing down the commercial space economy. But if you look at what's happening now, with the Artemis II launch, everything that's happening in our legislation, in our national policies, the government is strongly looking at the commercial space sector to do things in the space economy for deep space exploration. And for all of that, you need really good space and commercial lawyers who are the connectors and the enablers to make those two institutions talk to each other and make things happen.
100%. Completely agree.
Yeah, I was going to say just in terms of the speed of everything as well, right? So you see the way that, for example, SpaceX, they're blowing stuff up. They're pushing things to the max. They're testing it as much as they can because it's privately funded. Yeah. Whereas you see NASA blowing stuff up every day, then taxpayers are going to wonder what is going on, right? So it's just 100%. That. I'm also curious, Neha, actually, do you feel like regulation slows innovation down? Or on the other hand, do you think it forces companies to be more creative with having to work around regulations?
When we look at space, we see that the US government is very mindful of not over-regulating space companies. And I'll go back to what's happening like today, right? The government wants to enable commercial space, and so what they're doing is they're creating voluntary light touch requirements. And I'll take a very good example, and this may be slightly complicated, but I'll try to keep it as simple as I can. There's something called novel space activities. So you think about on-orbit data computing, commercial space stations with habitation, mining on the moon. Yes, that is going to be happening in our future. Mining on the moon or mining resources on an asteroid. There is no current regulation that specifically speaks to those novel space activities. There's now a proposal in the government that talks about creating a light touch, voluntary process to allow these novel space companies to go through certification fast, like within 120 days. And again, I'm oversimplifying it a little bit, but that is what's happening now, is the government is mindful that they need to allow commercial space to grow. They need to allow capital to flow in and investors to flow in. And if they overregulate at this point, it's really going to flatten the economy, the space economy. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you see. I'm sorry. Go ahead. No, I was about to say. And I think you'll kind of see something there. Like, people probably get the most creative in a lot of situations. One, when you're trying to get around something like, Netflix, for instance. I'm pretty sure there's people that share their Netflix password all over the place, but, just to kind of get creative to get around that regulation so they don't have to pay that extra fee. Or, like, when there is not a lot of money. People have to get creative when there may not be a lot of money, so you find ways to make things stretch. And so we're seeing that, like, even real time, like if you look at the things that's happening in Ukraine. Not a lot of money, but they're still finding ways to like resist and push back and do the things that they need to do to kind of protect their country. And so I think you'll continue to see things like that with space where, there may be some type of regulations. There also may be times where they might not get the funding that they need, but companies, if they want to make a difference, they're going to find a way.
And I want to mention something about the funding situation, because that is definitely one of those things that is highly regulatory, required. With NASA, when I was there, I saw budget cuts every year that I was there, and I was there almost 10 years. Every year there was a different debacle that incorporated some type of cut from some department. And of course, when we had the cut from Shuttle, there was a lot of layoffs. Well, with the regulatory situation that Neha was mentioning, when you don't put as much regulation on the commercial spaceflight, there's not all of that red tape that we endured when we dealt with the retirement of shuttle or the loss of activity when NASA started kind of dwindling down. We started looking at SpaceX, we started looking at Axiom, we started looking at Virgin Galactic and all these other, commercial space endeavors trying to fortify our own networks. So when you think about the regulations, it's actually better that they don't regulate the commercial space industry versus the red tape that they give for all of the regulatory things that happen in NASA and anything that deals with space in the government. Because now we have the entrepreneurship that comes out of it, and you get people like us that can manifest other things and other, reliability responsibilities in that same lane. So while yes, we have the regulatory standards for NASA, we have a little bit of a limitation there. We don't have as much limitation on the commercial side, and that helps us grow. And it doesn't flatten out the situation like Neha mentioned, because we have more of a fortitude and an investment project. So it makes for a better economy, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
Khaki, you look like you also wanted to respond to that.
So there is one. Everybody knows what a 4-letter word is, right? I mean, don't say it. But I'll tell you the 4-letter word in the space industry. ITAR. International Trade and Arms Regulations. This is on the commercial side. This is, no offense to my government colleagues here, but it is the bane of our existence when you're trying to do business outside of the U.S., when you're trying to employ anyone who is a foreign national. And there's a lot of great foreign nationals coming through the U.S. university systems. We can't hire them. And they've got to go back either back to their country if they want to do anything in rockets or anything in national security. So this has, in a sense, stymied the commercial space industry because we can only sell within the U.S. If you're talking, and that's if you're talking about certain systems. Rockets is the big one. I mean, it was only 15 years ago where satellite propulsion systems could be declassified, be taken off that ITAR list. So, that is one of the things that we have not been able to get too creative with. We can get a little creative, but that's a big one that is over our head, and it's fine. I mean, we work with it. I'm not going to complain about it because it protects us here in the U.S.
That's right. No shenanigans.
Exactly. Exactly. But it doesn't allow for us to, as a commercial company, be a more multinational company.
So there's a lot of collaboration. There's a little bit of tension. It's like a dysfunctional family, and I guess the lawyers are the black sheep is essentially what we're getting at here.
No, they're the ones like.
So, Khaki, your business, you develop these autonomous. Can you just the satellite? It's a deep space autonomous thing that.
It does the thing.
What's it does the thing?
It's a thing.
Yeah, can you just describe real briefly what your thing does? Because I have a question about it.
You know what? I mean, since I deal with, I had to write it down, like really break it.
You're a poet.
Break it down. And I just did that this morning, so I haven't quite memorized it yet. But it's for autonomous operations. Okay, it is a system. What we're building is a brain that lets satellites, drones, and vehicles connect with different systems. Remember those different systems I was talking about, the avionics and the GNC and the propulsion and all that stuff? So it allows that vehicle to connect all of these different systems, coordinate these systems, and then allows the vehicle, the drone, the spacecraft, to make decisions on its own without human intervention.
Sounds like Terminator.
While
That's
it's
what I'm
in-
getting at, actually.
that is autonomous operations.
Okay, so my
Right
question then on that, and you all can answer this as well. Do you believe that automation makes systems safer or riskier? And at what point do we now trust machines more than humans in space? Because I hear on the ground here, there's a lot of human, regulation and human collaboration and whatnot. But when it comes to these things in space and these machines that we're relying on to keep us alive, even at what point do we trust them more than human intervention and people in mission control?
Can I just clarify though? I mean, ours is not designed for any adversarial.
Oh no, I don't mean that.
It's to make sure that vehicle, that platform operates.
Right.
So that's all it is. But yeah, to your point.
But
to your point.
What do you all think? Not for nefarious reasons, obviously, but we hear about SpaceX. Their capsules can basically pilot themselves now, right? Do you even need a person to do it anymore? I would think yes. I mean, we look at the moon landing, Apollo 11, they definitely needed to have some human intervention there. But do you think that systems are now getting to the point where we can just set it and forget it? Or do you think we're always going to need to have that kind of human
We're going to have to
aspect?
have a human, where there's going to have to be a human, but there's a point where humans aren't going to be able to be there. So, I mean, as we get into deeper space, as we get into, I mean, we're talking about infrastructure on the moon. We're talking about, lunar bases. Ideally, hopefully, I mean, we'll send people, but we're going to send robots to be there longer term than we will people to start. So who's going to fix the robots? I mean, if a robot breaks on the moon, here's the scenario. Robot breaks on the moon. Are you going to then send up an astronaut to go fix that robot, and it's going to take them, a few days, more than a few days, to get there? Or are you going to embed in that robot a system where you allow it to repair itself, and then it is able to continue? I mean, and it might be like a quick repair until an astronaut can get up there and actually fix it. But who here has seen the movie WALL-E? Right? Yeah. All right. If you haven't seen it, you got to see it. So if you remember, WALL-E's got a storehouse of all the other robot parts, and WALL-E loses an eye. It goes out, right? It doesn't work. Goes to the tool shed and finds an eye. Pops it back in. The system, the computer does its thing, reconnects it, and it's got an eye. So imagine if we can do that, so that things don't break in space where you can't be, or anywhere you can't be.
Until you can be there, I guess. You don't want to replace humans entirely, but yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
One of the things that I kind of want to point out, too, to help kind of seal the whole deal for this is the Perseverance. That was one of the rovers that we had that was autonomous, right? There was a little bit of a lag between the space systems, like the actual mission control, and that actual autonomous vehicle. Well, they made it autonomous so that if there was that delay, they couldn't get the signal right, they couldn't do whatever it was it needed to do. It already had a composition embedded in itself where it could go out and do the mission, work forward for the mission until it gets the human interaction, which makes it semi-autonomous. But one of the things that they really wanted to make sure was that it could complete the mission regardless to human interaction. And I think going forward, that's going to be one of our things that we try to incorporate, only because the inhibition for us to actually make it to certain destinations without severe problematic issues that may arise, because we're human, we're not machines, we have to breathe, we have to have certain suitings and things like that. And those types of situations where they embed those types of products, make for a better mission outcome because we're not putting human lives in danger. And that would be one of the reasons why her, inventions exist, because we want to protect human species. No matter what, the end goal is to make sure we safely arrive to the next planet and we're able to do what we want to do there, whether it be just visitation and some type of spa treatments or something on the moon, or if we're actually going there to work, because space has the new frontier for the work environment for individuals. So that's...
Or a little of both.
Or a little of both.
The moon landing people deserve a spa treatment too.
I can get a spa treatment on the moon. Who would
get
not
some
want
hot
that?
lunar regolith rocks,
Absolutely.
Sign me up.
So I love that we're thinking about long term here, the future, what might spa treatments on the moon, sure. So I'm curious for each of your fields now, what's something that you feel like is coming in the next 5 to 10 years that will fundamentally change how your field operates? And you might have similar answers, I don't know, but I'm curious for each of you all. What do you think that might be?
So in the case of the legal world, well, before I get into the legal world, I just want to quickly pull on a thread about the humans in space thing. What want versus need. In going forward in the future, I hope that we all want to go to space, right? Because having that human experience, I don't think that can ever be replaced by a machine, right? Having that experience and then being able to convey that to everybody here, whether you're on the moon or whether you're on Mars, that's irreplaceable. And if you are funding things through taxpayer money and through the government, I think that's going to be an essential, if you look at sort of the boring side of that answer. But in the law, I think what's going to happen is there's going to be more risk, there's going to be more litigation, there is going to be more regulation. But what's exciting about it is we're going to start seeing frameworks and norms and guidelines of different countries and different operators who are mining on the moon coming together in some sort of a consensus. So when I talk about mining on the moon, think about it this way. You may have a lander or an operation from the United States, and you may have one from, say, Germany. And they're right next to each other, and they want to look for the same resource. Well, space is a very harsh environment, right? So if they're mining right next to each other, there have to be some rules of the road. And those are the things that we're, as lawyers and policymakers, looking at now is how do we get a consensus? How do we get folks to agree on some rules of the road when they are on the moon mining next to each other? So for me, that is a very exciting thing to work on. A lot of my research focuses on that, as well as commercial space stations and how we're going to construct the norms and rules for that.
I think mine will be more along the lines of experimental value. I think that the atmosphere that we're doing things experimentally for any kind of medical practice or things like that in space, in the ISS or wherever we may be, maybe on shuttle, if they even get that far, because shuttle is a lighter mission asset than the ISS is because of the time duration. But I think that it'll be more sterile environments. I think that it'll be more scientific approaches to it. It's not so damaging to any of the equipment. It's not like a loss or a lack of outcomes from the research and the development. I think honestly, maybe we'll find some type of way to reduce the radiation intake. I think that's a big, big thing. And if you don't know, NASA astronauts have a limitation. They have a requirement to abide by a restrictive rule of the amount of radiation that they can intake over a lifetime. So those individuals can't fly past a certain point value. And if they do like Peggy Whitson and go to Axiom Space, or they go to, wherever they go, Virgin Galactic, VAST, or wherever, Jeff Bezos' programs, anything like that. So you have those limitations that I think will be a little bit more equipped in the later run. It's going to take time for development, but I think over time, the experimental values will be more probable and actually able to be used. Because at this time, I think a lot of the experiments are limited by resources in flight. So maybe blood draws or some type of exercise equipment, the durability behind it and things like that. I think that a lot of the epidemiological concepts will advance in a way that we're actually getting more complex things in that environment versus having to really minimize the ability to do research in space.
I think also, just to tag on to that, these new private space stations that they're talking about replacing the International Space Station with these medical bays that are really kind of purpose-built for that stuff. I think you're probably right. Khaki, what about you?
Addition and subtraction. So we're gonna see two things. We're going to see more satellites, more things in space, especially low Earth orbit. We're going to see them come down, right? We're going to see this orbital debris that's up there be taken away. Whether I mean, there's companies that are thinking of like call them garbage trucks in space. They're thinking about that. They're thinking about ways to capture them and deorbit them so they burn up in the atmosphere before they come down. So there's a lot of stuff up there that's not working, and there's a fair number of companies, hopefully more, that are looking to take that debris away. But we're also going to see more companies that are, the best way to do it is last mile delivery. We're going to see more, one company is a friend of mine that I was talking about yesterday, Impulse Space. They're looking at taking even small satellites further up. So getting them up just with one rocket launch. So you don't have to have a big, massive rocket that will get something into higher Earth orbit, into GEO. These kinds of things will just be able to take, even student CubeSats into GEO, into higher than where they've gone before. And then we're going to see more exploration. I mean, we saw it, 3 weeks ago, right? We went further, as humans, we went further into space, beyond Earth than we've ever gone before. I think we're going to see more of that.
I guess real quickly, I mean, I think on a basic level, one of the things you're going to see I guess what I'm hoping to see is that the way we teach in school changes, where space becomes a part of the curriculum. It's not like an afterthought, but it's a part of like the next generation and things of what we're going to be doing, whether it's, medical things in space, research in space, space mining, whatever those things is. I'm hoping to see that kind of change in the classroom. And then also, I think with the advancement of artificial intelligence, I think you'll probably see that particular change as well in classrooms. Right now, when you look at AI, I think, has anybody ever had like a young kid or a young intern work for them, and they ask them to go get something and they bring you all this information and most of it, it's okay, but it's not exactly what you need? That's kind of like AI right now. It can get you all these kind of great things, but it doesn't have the, the benefit of experience. And so I think one of the things that we'll continue to look at is seeing how we can get people experience in space and AI a lot younger and a lot earlier.
I love what you were saying about teaching about space more too, and getting more into education. I think that's something here at the Intrepid that we really try to do is focus on the fact that there's a variety of different pathways into the space industry. You all are representing that right now. None of you are astronauts, maybe not yet, but yet you are still very much shaping space today. So for anyone who's interested out there, what is a pathway into your world that people don't really realize exists? And are there any skills that you feel like matter more than people think about in your industry?
I could jump in, I guess. I can start. I mean, I'm military. Like I said, I came into the Air Force 15 years ago. I was a biology major with a minor in bioethics. I thought I was going to a lab somewhere, but they were just like, hey, you know what? No, you're going to try this space thing out. And so then I was like, you know what? I'm going to do 4 years, and I'm probably going to get out, maybe go to medical school or something like that. And then here we are 22 years later, and it's provided me the opportunity to do a lot of great things. And so the military can provide you an opportunity. It's a option. It may not be the option for everyone, but I think it is a great pathway to kind of get skills that you may not get in other places, whether it's learning how to have leadership, learning, how to, get after hard problems. I think it's a great way for folks to kind of come in, learn something, be a part of something, and then, take that skill whenever it's time for you to leave the service and go out and then be a part of, the private sector or whatever that is. So I do think the military is a good way, and for me, it has taken me to places that I never thought it ever would. Even here on this panel with these amazing panelists. So.
Well, not to be repetitive, but I was also, still am military, been in 23 years, so I got you beat by one. I was also a biology major. Yeah. I feel like this is like a double game kind of thing, because that's literally the way that I got into the same situation. Yeah. I went into biology, and then I transitioned into public health. I'm not saying that it's the only way to go. If you like something else other than biology, like physics, I'm a physics nut. I love physics. If you want to go into math, any type of STEM, and you go into, if you want to get into epidemiology, there are pathways to do it. Public health is the main pathway to do that.
That's my master's.
Yeah, and it's my master's. Get off my LinkedIn, guy. But in all seriousness, obviously, we didn't know each other very well before this. I did not pay attention to your LinkedIn, but now I'm going to have to go back and look. But that is really cool that we took the similar pathway, and it put us here, literally the same situation. Now, the other thing for cybersecurity, I did a little bit of a weirder path into cybersecurity because I took the big data that I learned from public health and all the, learning the different types of programs like SAS and SPSS and Crystal Reports. I did all these things, and I kind of converted it over. So before I got into cybersecurity, I worked at JP Morgan. That was one of my positions that I had, and I worked Intel operations for the bank. You wouldn't even think that Intel operations exists, but fraud is a thing. So we have to figure out how to protect the bank from fraud. So there is an intelligence community in the banking system, but I kept hopping from place to place, and every time I picked up a different data narrative, and then I ended up in the cybersecurity. So cybersecurity took that data element that I had in my background and that analytic part of my background, and now I'm in cyber. So cyber has a community for everybody. I'm a public health individual working in cybersecurity, doing infrastructure hardening and trying to make sure that nobody gets hacked. That's a thing. But I took a different pathway. So it doesn't matter the path you choose, it's how you get there. And everybody has their own line of sight. You can do what you love and still get into the same spaces. And I think that space, for me, and probably him too, has that inclusivity where we can combine the biology Wonder Twins and then still activate here and be on this panel. So I think that if you want to get into the same space and structure as us, you could take the military route. I wouldn't suggest it. But I would suggest be really, really cognitive of what you're doing in school. Make sure you go into some type of structure that you can kind of develop into that strategy and then transition into cybersecurity. You don't have to be a hacker. You don't have to be, some type of coder or anything like that. You can go into governance and law and policy and things like that, which is kind of what I do myself.
Yeah. So my story is a little bit different than Amber and
You're not
Corey's.
a biologist?
No, and that's what I want to emphasize here today, right? I do not have a STEM background. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a technologist. I'm not an engineer. I would like to be, but I'm not. I was born and raised in Mumbai, India. We moved to the United States in the 90s, and I took a very traditional path. I graduated college. I went straight into law school. Right after law school, I took the bar exam, and I took the first job that was given to me, which was commercial litigation. So I litigated cases in state and federal courts for almost 20 years. And I then decided that I was going to go back to my passion as a little kid in India. I wanted to be an astronaut and get into space somehow. So you can create your own pathway, no matter how old you are or at what stage of your career you're at. There are opportunities now in space for everyone that never existed before. 4 years ago, I quit a big law job, and I moved across the world, and I went and got a master's in air and space law. And now here I am. I have my own law firm where I advise space startups and technology startups on a multitude of issues. So again, you don't have to be in any of these traditional pathways to make make a little room for yourself in the space industry.
And Khaki, I know you had a story.
I have a story. So yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, you any skill with what we've said already on this panel, you can translate any skill into space. I mean, I come at this from a writing background. My undergraduate degree is in English Lit with a minor in journalism. Communication is essential, especially if you're going to go on the business side of space, because not everybody's going to understand what engineers are telling you on the technical speak, right? So you need to, we need artists in space. There's a lot of great artists who their specialty is looking at space art. When we're in space, we're in anti-gravity. We're gonna need hairstylists, for Christ's sake. I mean, did anybody see Christina Koch's hair when she's up in space? How are you gonna cut hair when it's sticking straight up? But we're gonna need all kinds of people in space. But the story I have where, I mean, first of all, I'm a child of the Apollo era, so my mother woke me up to watch the Apollo 11 moon landing. So, that kind of struck something in me. So I always had it, but I was good in science, not so great in math. Never thought that I could be an engineer. I could think like an engineer. I could think like a designer. I went to architecture school at Columbia, the Graduate School of Architecture, Planning and Preservation. I went into the Historic Preservation program. These guys will tell you, I love rocks. So I did a master's thesis on building stones of New York City. But in one of my classes the first year, I had a professor who worked for the World Monuments Fund, and his project was Angkor Wat, the archaeological site at Angkor Wat. And he's trying to figure out how to preserve this site. He's on the subway going up to Columbia for class. He reads in the newspaper that the space shuttle is going over Cambodia with this new radar, this new Earth observation system, imaging system called XR. So synthetic aperture radar. And now it's used in a lot of satellites already. But what caught his eye was that this imaging device, this SAR, could look through clouds. Well, at Angkor Wat, there's always clouds. There's a lot of humidity. So he wanted to know, it could look through the tree canopy. So if you've ever seen pictures of the temples at Angkor, you'll see a lot of trees because it's overgrown. He wanted to know what the structures were. So he gets off the subway, he calls his office, he says, get me the project manager at JPL. And her name was right in there, but get me Diane Evans at JPL. I'll wait. This is in the days of payphones. And he's standing there. He's waiting for about half an hour. He said, just call me back. Here's the number. He's waiting. He gets a call back. They said, yeah, we reached her office. She's not there. But, she'll call you back. He said, okay. He goes up, has class, and he gets a call like a day or two later saying, from Diane Evans at NASA JPL. She hears his story. She says, sure, we'll take those images. So then it becomes a project because now we have this data, these images of Angkor Wat where we can see things that we didn't even know exist. We could see reservoirs. We could see water. It's like, water? What? We didn't even know that that was there until we saw it from space. So he's telling the story in class, and he's showing a picture of the image, and I'm like, I want to get in on that. I want to get involved with that. It's like, what do I need to do? He said, well, we're going to do a workshop down in Princeton. You want to come? And that's how I just kind of started in on looking at, remote imaging at archaeological sites for heritage conservation. And that just kind of started my track down this road of, you know what? I can look at things from space. I can look at these images that multiple bands and how these bands get synthesized, this data gets processed, and it becomes this image that then we can look at things and we could see things that we've never seen before and inform humanity of where we came from. I mean, these are civilizations that existed hundreds of years ago. 1400 was when Angkor was first developed. These things still exist. This is part of us. So there's a connection here, and that was what started me in on this.
So to get to where you were, I mean, it's curiosity, it's exposure to things that you didn't even know existed.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. I think because what we're trying to tell you is this: be curious, don't be afraid to do hard things, and don't be afraid to go follow your passion.
And don't let someone tell you no. Find your niche, make your own.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Right?
Exactly.
Amazing. Yep. All right, so I want to get to a few questions. Does anyone have any questions out here in the audience? All right, I am going to very not gracefully jump off the stage. All right, and I'm going to get to you right over here. So do you guys mind sticking around just a little bit longer? I know we might go over time a little bit. All right, so I'm going to pass this to you. There you go.
Hello. Hello. I have a question. How do you guys feel? What was your favorite mission you guys accomplished or did? And also, how do you guys feel about less people caring about space after we went to space in the space race and after Artemis 2?
Man, it's a great question.
I know.
Right? Yeah, Lee. Man, I feel like I just got like a trigonometry problem.
Yeah.
A lot of questions.
I know.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm about to say, I mean, for me, one of the best missions that I ever did, I did the last mission to the Hubble telescope. And so we prepared 2 shuttles at that time. Like I said, I am not an astronaut, so I did not go, but I was on, I was on station, I was there, I was preparing it, I got a chance to go inside it and everything. And so that was probably one of the coolest missions I ever had to do, is because you don't really get a chance to prepare 2 shuttles all at once. One for the mission, and then one for the rescue, just in case anything went wrong. And so your mentality is kind of the same when you're preparing it, but it's a little bit different if you have to prepare a rescue mission for, those up in orbit, doing something that we haven't really done before, to go fix a telescope. And so that was absolutely amazing. I think, with everything that's been going on with the Artemis 2 mission kind of just coming back, and then seeing what SpaceX is doing with launching rockets and then landing them, those are things that we really haven't done before, And so I think, there was, space was waning before. The interest was kind of going down, just like you're talking about. But I think with seeing all the people in here today, especially here in New York, where people's like, oh, New York is not a state for space, I think it really is a testament that people are really interested in this and they want to take it to the next level.
I have.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say I have 2, only because I spent time at NASA on 2 different fronts. So the first one is when we did the launch. So I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's called LIDS, L-I-D-S. It stands for Low Impact Docking System. And what it is
hats.
No, not the New York cap, but LIDS. It's a Low Impact Docking System. And what it was the semi-autonomous piece that was like a 3-ring, not 3-ring, 3 magnetic portion on the inside and it was all, like, what was it, 120 degrees apart from each other, but those magnetic rings fused together and they locked in place. So one lids will be on shuttle, one lids will be on ISS, and that system, that androgynous system would fuse together, lock at its core, and then it would like take out all of the deoxygenated matter in the tunnel. It would build a tunnel system between that vehicle that's coming to ISS and the actual vehicle of ISS. And it was like the tunnel that the crew members would go from and to. So they would leave their whatever vehicle that they're flying from, like shuttle or whatever it was, and they would connect to the ISS. That was like the biggest mission, only because that was one of the ones that I did a lot of risk management with, a lot of systems engineering with. I was able to work with all the ABET engineers, which is like the electrical engineers, the mechanical engineers, any systems engineers, and that was a big, big piece. I even got a chance to go to mission control and sit in on the actual docking where they fused everything together. We saw the whole mission. I never will forget that, because that was such a pivotal moment for me. The other one was the one we sent the twins to space. So the Kelly brothers, I don't know if you've seen that, but back in 2015, I'm dating myself, but back in 2015, we sent the Kelly brothers up for a year. One stayed here, one went up, and we looked at the variations between their chromosomes. You know what chromosomes are, right? So we looked at their gene variation from the chromosomes that changed in flight. He was up there for a year. Maybe something happened with the radiation and all these other things, but are twins still twins when they return? And that was one of the missions that I was involved in too. But as far as like the peak, I mean, everything ebbs and flows. We get an interest, we lose an interest. That's just the way humans are. We might make a race what it is, and then at the end we're like, we're over it. But to dream this thing and not ever give that piece up, I think that's what makes space such a viable concept. It's not like other things on Earth that we could just, we're a part of it 1 minute and then we're not. Space is always going to be there. It's always going to be one of those apparatus that we want to actually accomplish. And everybody, I think everybody in this audience has a little bit of space in them. And that's why you're sitting in this audience listening to us like googly eye over the concept of space, because that's been our industry for so long. We don't ever see, I stepped away from the industry myself for a little bit, but I went back. So it's always going to be that honing mechanism for me. And I think that if you are very much interested, talk to one of us on the panel, figure out what you want to do, and we can definitely help you out with getting your own piece of space in you that'll hone in on that trajectory that you're going to see for a lifetime.
And so to answer your first question, my first job in the space industry was working for a company that was building rocket engines and rocket planes. So they were low altitude vehicles, but they were actually taking planes, almost very small planes, home built plane. I mean, you can, believe it or not, you can buy an airplane from a kit and build the plane. So we built 2 of these kinds of planes. The second one that we built had 2 seats, which meant there was a pilot and a co-pilot. And our pilot was a former NASA space shuttle commander and pilot. So he piloted 1 space shuttle mission and commanded 2 space shuttle missions. Rick Searfoss.
Oh, I was going to ask.
Rick Searfoss, the late great Rick Searfoss. So Rick, he was our pilot. We built the vehicle, we completed it. We were giving ourselves a ride. We were going around the company, giving everybody a ride in the plane, not a ride, but a flight in the plane. So I was co-pilot on one of those flights, and I'm sitting there. It's me. Rick is here, and I'm sitting here, and we're about this close, and I can see him, and he's got his flight plan on his knee, right? And I'm just like, okay, I'm holding on, and I'm thinking, holy, what am I doing here? And then I look, it's like, I got Rick, he knows what he's doing, I'm fine. But I tell you what, you take off on a rocket plane, on any kind of rocket vehicle, you know there's a rocket on your behind. It is an experience that I will never forget. And not only that, but to have this space shuttle commander fly me and be the pilot of this plane, this rocket plane. Because the thing is, I'm trying to look out the window, because, you know, you're in a plane. You're like, well, how far am I couldn't see the ground because we're going straight up. I'm just looking at clouds as I'm looking out the window. So that was my best mission. And, you know, I'm sure there's some other cool ones, but that was the absolute coolest. But I agree. Space is never going to go away. I mean, it took us, how long did it take us to complete this Artemis 2 mission? It didn't just happen like that. I mean, it's been 10 years in the making, at least, right? And, you know, when Space Shuttle program ended and people are like, well, what's NASA going to do now? NASA still went on. NASA continued. NASA still did what it did. It still sent, you know, there's still astronauts going up. It never goes away. In fact, it's probably in your pocket right now if you have a phone in your pocket. It looks like your mother has a phone, so there's space right there.
I just want to
person next to you.
add to that comment. So I'm a lawyer, right? I have not been on a mission, but what I want to convey to you, right, in terms of interest in space, our hope as professionals is that the younger generation will keep that momentum and we keep that interest in space, building upon the things that we're building, right? So hopefully there will not be any more ebbs and flows, and space will be a constant, and we'll have more and more space professionals. We'll have a lunar space economy. We'll have a robust economy in the low Earth orbit as well. These are all things that we're working towards now, and it's nice to see. I think somebody earlier answered a question about International Space Station, right? I think you showed a picture and said, what is this? And someone from the audience said, oh, that's an astronaut on the International Space Station. There are many adults who do not know about the International Space Station. So it's refreshing to see the questions and the interest that I'm seeing from the younger generation here. And I would encourage you to keep that interest in space going forward.
Many of you out here might actually be the next generation, or maybe even going to Mars someday. So don't give up that inspiration. We love to hear it. All right, go right here.
My name is Princeton, and my question is, how much did it cost when you launched the satellite?
How much does it cost to launch a satellite?
Oh.
Yeah, you definitely got to dig in the couch for that.
We've been entrepreneurs.
Well,
yeah, go ahead. I just want to go ahead.
His name's Preston, right? Preston?
Princeton.
Oh, okay.
Princeton.
Okay.
Princeton.
So it depends on how big your satellite is, what it's supposed to do, and how long it's going on a mission. So you got like maybe $50,000. You have an allowance, right? I think you got it. I think you got it in the bank. You draw interest in things. You have a high yield savings account, right? You're good.
We'll get him some venture capital.
We'll definitely get him some.
Well, you know what, though? It might not cost you anything, because NASA has a program where if you're a student, you could apply for a grant and launch a satellite, and NASA will pay for it.
There are ways. That's true.
Yeah.
All right, so we had a question you were going to interpret.
Yes, I wanted to know, you're an attorney, you're in the military, you're an engineer, etc. Why would you pursue space? Would you be willing to be an astronaut now, or just stay where you are? And why?
Oh man.
Yeah, I'm not going nowhere. I mean, that is definitely for a special select few who's really interested in exploration. I mean, mine kind of actually like stops here. I mean, I love being able to support the mission because I think it's inspirational for folks to be able to do that. But and I'm a very, very curious person, but it does have its little bit of a limits, and that's for me. That's it. There are a lot of things that I think can happen You know, in space, I mean, the radiation, I mean, every time astronauts go up, sometimes they may have one symptom, then they'll come back down, and they go back up, and they may have another symptom. And, you know, when they come back, a lot of times their body is wrecked because space is tough. You know, space, even though you're in, you know, I guess, non-gravity, lower gravity, whatever, however you want to call it, and you're floating, but it is still tough on the body. And so those are things, like, for me, that's pretty tough. And plus, I like food. I mean, it's only so much I can eat through a tube. You know, I am like, you know,
I've heard that space food is actually very good.
Yeah.
What they were saying.
I mean, it's chock full of preservatives. What would you not want?
I'm telling you.
It's rehydrated.
Ultra
Even better.
Like, can you imagine not being able to get a slice? Like, come on.
I mean,
New
to
Yorkers
be
need their
honest,
slice.
there are like, we had like Thanksgiving dinner sent up in a packet. You can still get your cranberry sauce and your turkey and all your dressing and the fixings. You don't want you send.
But it ain't mama's though. It ain't mama's. Good though.
I mean, that's true. We'd have to dehydrate your mom's cooking, but I mean.
Wait, so I think you guys just identified an opportunity for a future space professional to improve the cuisine on commercial space stations of the future, right?
I mean, we need to get them to do the MREs first for the military. Let's work on that one first.
Yeah, those are disgusting.
There are people working on that.
Good.
Absolutely. There's chefs working on that.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Food scientists, that's the thing.
Chefs in space.
Well, I'm a little bit of a daredevil, so I'm just going to put it out there. I would actually love to go to space. I started doing a private pilot's license, or a PPL. Back when I was at NASA, I had really invigorating mentors that kind of stuffed that into my brain when I was there. So I worked with, I don't know if y'all know, but Peggy Whitson, you know who she is? Okay, her husband was my ex-boss. So I actually worked with Clarence Sams for a while with the Biomedical Reduction Data Analysis Program. It was called BDRA for short. It was hugely, immunology and like, experimental and things like that. I met most of the crew members that have been flying, and some of them I still reach out to from time to time. They never cease to amaze me. They're the coolest people on earth, I swear. And to be honest, I'm getting back into the flying genre. I hope I'll finish my PPL this time, crossing my fingers. I'll go get some money from him because I think he has like the bank, the bank of P, right? But definitely, I would love to do that one day. If that's, in God's plan, I would be fascinated, and I'll be the daredevil to take on the reins, and I'll tell you how it is. Bring you some information.
You're gonna have to.
I'm with her.
Post
I mean,
it.
I'd go. I would have. I mean, I would have loved to be on the Artemis 2, just looking out the window and looking at the moon and the rocks and the geology on the moon. I mean, I've got probably shouldn't say that. A rock from the ocean. I'd love to have a moon rock too.
And I'd love to be the first lawyer in space. I will go, and Amber and I have been talking about how we can even make that happen in the future. So
yeah,
thank you, Amber.
We're gonna wear unicorn onesies and hang out in the ISS. If we get it,
it's never too late.
That sounds like fun.
Well, there actually there are some companies. There's some proposals out there of retirement homes on the moon because
that's wild.
Because I mean, think of it like what. As we get older, our bodies ache, right? Well, why do they ache? Because of gravity. And if you're on the moon, there's no gravity, so there's no stress on your joints. So maybe better. Could be
Not
better.
a bad idea. You got an investor over there.
Bank of P.
So we've got a question from the internet. I'm going to change it up here. We've heard of using rockets for point-to-point transport on Earth. So what challenges would exist to create such a service from New York City? I can think of a million, but for each of you guys, what do you think?
Space, not in space, but I think that's one of the things. But
you need a spaceport. And spaceports, right now, the FAA is licensing spaceports in very low density areas, and that just disqualifies New York City right off the bat. Yeah, I mean, you'd have to make the case that it is extremely safe to do, because as we know, when there's a fatal accident of a very, what's known as a high thrust vehicle, which is a rocket plane, it explodes, and there's a lot of debris. And that is what the FAA is concerned about. FAA, Commercial Space Transportation Division of the FAA. So actually, think of that. There is a space component of the Federal Aviation Administration. But they, yeah, I mean, that's the disqualifier.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
And it's expensive, but that's the main reason why we like launch in Florida and in California, because we don't launch over people. I mean, just for the safety reasons alone. And then like the chemicals are pretty harsh and pretty noxious. So, you know, that's one of the safety of flight type stuff. The other thing is that, you know, New York may not need launch. I think there's other things here in New York that folks can do as it comes to space. Like whether it's the software or whether it's hardware or developing things, there's tons of things folks can do here without having launch. And plus, like, I mean, when I look at the property costs here, like, who's going to pay for that launch pad? Like, really?
Right.
Like, I mean, God.
Like a floating barge.
A one bedroom is like $7,000 a month. Like, you kidding me?
Yeah, but I mean, look, before we take off, and kind of to your point earlier, young lady, rocket launches never get old. I can see 1 million rocket launches in my lifetime, and each one is going to be fascinating. So if you ever get a chance, if you're ever in the vicinity of where they're going to be launching a rocket, go look at it. You know, even if it's down in Florida and you're off of the NASA property and, you know, they're on the inlet, it's still spectacular.
I mean, they also have Wallops Island, Virginia, too, so they launch rockets there.
And they're talking about building a spaceport in Nova Scotia now, too, so I guess that would technically be our closest one if that happens.
Man, good luck.
Or Maine, Maine.
Yeah, interesting. All right, other questions out here? All right.
To each of you, what is your favorite science fiction, outer space movie, and why?
Oh, man. Oh, I got it.
Yeah. Star Wars. Star Wars, the first one, right? It's fun. It's just fascinating. I mean, the characters are amazing. So, I mean, in the space industry, there's a lot of the, are you a Trekkie or are you a Star Wars? You go to conferences and there'll be debate. There'll be people asking you to hold up your hand. I'm Star Wars, but yeah, I know I have not seen the latest one yet though, but I do want to see Hail Mary.
Well, I've got an easy one. I'm a Trekkie by proxy. My dad grew up. We watched like Star Trek and like Planet of the Apes and Star Wars. But when they proposed and authorized and filmed with the new Uhura, which is Zoe Saldana, I was floored because she did a fantastic job. So I'll take two remnants of that. Like I'll take it from the show and put it into the actual like movie. And Star Trek is hands down my favorite. It reminds me of my parents, and I Saturday morning, Saturday evening, watching with my parents, and it's nostalgic for me. So I definitely think Star Trek is a thing for me.
I mean, that's all right, but it's all right. Y'all all right. Spaceballs. Okay, hands down.
Why?
Spaceballs. Okay, see, they feeling it. Spaceballs. You know what I'm saying? You gotta have the Schwartz. You know what I mean? That dark helmet. Like, come on. Like, it is probably one of the best like space movies in all time. So, I'm telling you, that's right. Spaceballs. That's what did it for me.
For me, it's not a film. It's a TV series that came on Apple fairly recently in the last few years called For All Mankind. I found it to be incredibly well written, well scripted, has some elements of history in there, but they sort of mix it up with the fictional parts. And it was truly inspiring because I was writing my master's thesis for air and space law while I was in the Netherlands, and it was truly inspiring for me because it made me think about laws and norms in a very different perspective and a very different lens. It's not for kids, I think. There's a rating, so be careful, but I'd highly recommend it to the adults in the group.
That really is a fascinating show as a thought experiment also of what our future could look like. Like this most recent season, I'm not going to give anything away, but like they're talking about politics in space, you know, they're talking about immigration in space and people like smuggling themselves to, Mars, and it's a really interesting thought experiment. So definitely
that's why Spaceballs was ahead of its time.
Well, that too.
Like come on, like really? Like stealing air, like come on, vacuum clean, like let's go.
Love it. All right, we have time for like one or two more questions. Any other? Okay, right over here. Yeah.
The Schwartz be with you. We're going to
Thank you guys
Plaid.
again for sticking
Please no.
What are some rules when like trying to like launch stuff, and which one would you consider the most important?
So what are some rules when trying to launch something, and what's the most important?
I think like we talked about it earlier. I think one of the most important rules is that we don't launch over people, because you would hate to have like a rocket fall on your house. Like it is. I mean, your PlayStation's in there and all types of other stuff. Your family. I mean, it would be absolutely terrible. But we put so much emphasis on the safety of flight, whether it's for humans, that's going into orbit, or whether it's for the folks down here on Earth, because it is so important that we keep people in the front of our mind in everything that we do, especially when it comes to this business.
So in space, we have two different types of payload, right? So you know what a payload is? It's the compact, pod that something or someone can be in. So depending on the payload, whether it's something like mechanical or some type of like restock or something like that in that payload versus a person as the payload, there's a line in the sand between what safety is for the both of them. And I think that's one of the things that we look at as far as safety, because we want to treat payload of people way more cautiously than payload of objects. I mean, objects are important. They get to space station, they help with the crew's mission and support and, sustainment. But I think that payload for people and putting people in a trajectory to whatever mission element they're going for is far more of a scrutinized situation. And I'm pretty sure I'm definitely honing in on that because I know the space lawyer is going to tell me that I'm right.
Yes, and always keep in mind, right? So these things you need a license, just like you need a license to open a restaurant. You need a license to launch, right? So there are very specific requirements that go into basically what Amber just said. We have governments who do this. We have lawyers and policymakers who work on this to make sure that all of the principles that engineering brings into it, right, like what they prioritize, are captured in our licensing system.
Good question.
Yeah. I mean, along what Amber said. I mean, there's payload rockets and then there's people rockets, and each one. I mean, just like when you go up in an airplane, your cabin is pressurized. On the cargo airplanes, doesn't have to be pressurized, and so you can think of that as kind of the difference between a payload rocket and a people rocket in general. I mean, obviously, depending on the payload, what it is, it might have to be pressurized, but there are standards for both, different standards for both.
All right, and one last question, if anyone has one. There's actually one more from the internet that I can read. This might be getting into the weeds a bit here, but can you briefly give your perspective of SpaceX Starship from each of your perspectives? So legal, business, technological, government, just your perspective of SpaceX Starship and what's going on with that right now, if you can.
Oh, man. Lobbing over there.
All right,
I know.
wait. I'll let you guys
go ahead,
think.
Khaki.
Yeah, so from a business perspective, from a commercial perspective, it's going to open up commercial space. I mean, I know companies that are designing, they've got their whole business model based around Starship, right? So they're building multi-ton spacecraft that can only be launched by Starship. So it just like SpaceX has increased space access for more people by allowing more satellites to go up into space, Starship is going to do the same thing. So, on the commercial side, on this new space industry that we call what we do, it's all about space access for more people, and whether that's students, whether it's businesses, whether it's government, it's increasing space launch, and by having a big honking vehicle, you can get more things in there.
Yeah. Just real quickly, I mean, I love it. I love the fact that we're innovating, because the one good thing I think it's going to create is going to make sure that someone else maybe innovates to see if they can do it better. And so I think the more that we do that, the more competition we create, the more things that we throw out there, the more jobs it may create, the more things it may spur our economy, and it may make our, for me, national security, that much better, because that gives us more access. But also, like I said, I'm all about something that's going to spur someone else to maybe come up with another idea. And I think that's exactly what it does, because it shows what's possible. And, a lot of times we don't think something is possible until we actually see someone else do it. And then, you see them go through some of their failures. And then next thing you know, we innovate again. And so I think that's what it's really going to do for us, continue to make us innovating and thinking about doing things differently.
Taking the concept from the job market, right? When I look at things like this, I look at the cybersecurity implementation of it all. And I think that the protection base, based on just like that whole element alone, is going to be one of those things that we really want to hone in on, because we want to protect our assets from adversarial, interpretation. We never want to have things open and unhardened so that we are susceptible to some type of like cybersecurity issues in the future. I think it's going to make for a lot of opportunities for cybersecurity strategists to become more intimate with space and space operations, which will kind of pivot back into national security and the modeling behind that. I think that's going to be a big element. We're going to have to protect all of our space vehicular modules, whatever they may be, from an adversarial reach.
So anytime there's a spur, right, in the space economy or any economy, there are creative contract clauses that come into play. There's creative business modeling, and for all of that, you need different types of lawyers. So for me, that's very exciting, because it's going to have this trickle-down effect, and it's going to trickle into commercial space law, modeling new types of contracts, creative mechanisms on dispute resolution. So yeah, for me, that's exciting.
So it makes more work for you all, but also exciting work for you all, right?
More work.
Amazing. Well, thank you all so much. I'm going to come back up here on stage. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your stories. Thank you for going over with us, answering all of our questions. Absolutely amazing. And if you all took nothing else away tonight, just remember, it's a very intercollaborative economy here. There are so many different jobs. They only represent 4 of, well, you represent like 7 industries, but they only represent a handful of things here. But again, we've got space artists, we've got space communicators, we've got all kinds of different people doing different things. And that's the biggest takeaway here, I think, is just that there is something for everyone in the space industry if you are interested in it. Don't ever let anyone stop you. You can figure it out. You can make your own niche and do it. You know, you could go to the moon, you could go to Mars.
And you don't have to leave New York.
And well, there you go, exactly. Right here in New York, there's plenty of people you can reach out to. But so yeah, thank you so much again for your time, everyone. Weren't they wonderful? Another round of applause for our panelists. Thank you. Also, again, thank you for our ASL interpreters who were switching out here throughout the night. We kept you a little bit late too. Thank you all. And for those of you on site here, again, don't forget to check out our Artemis 2 posters back there. Also, we've got stargazing out on the deck later tonight. And don't forget to also check out some of the education activities that we have going on too. Tuning in from home, thank you for watching. And yeah, we'll see you all next time. Come to the Intrepid, but thanks so much for joining us for Astronomy Night. We'll see you next time.
All right.
And here we go.
There's the W. Here's ignition.
Traveling up.
Did it just do a Kerbal?
Back to the moon and beyond.
Put that in the big bag, Gino.
Back at home, we all have a lot of work to do, but from here, that sure looks like a perfect world.
Propulsion continues to be normal.
We did have an observation. 343 unfolds to go.
It's orange.
Water towers can fly!
Bingo! Right in the center.
Where's Jacqueline? There it is!
That was surreal.
That's not what we want to see.
No!
Oh my God.
Yikes. You bet. We don't need any more of these.